Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick and welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening Woman. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. Who is the awakening woman? She's the woman who's seeking a greater possibility in her reality and looking for solutions. She knows being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If she can transform herself, she can change the world. Her Conversations will introduce you to talented women who will speak to your spirituality, sensuality, and soul. They share their stories and explain how they are in service to the world. So let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. My guest on this week's Her Conversations is Entrepreneur Rachel Onojafe, creator of wellness platform The Trove. She launched the company in 2017 after sensing the need for a platform committed to serving a supportive, diverse community where practitioners and seekers can collaborate and learn and grow. The Trove offers events, courses, and coaching. During our conversation, we talk about Rachel's journey from a corporate career into the wellness space. We discuss what true diversity means and also the realities of being an entrepreneur. But as always, I begin by asking my guests, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel at your most HER?
I love this question, and I love the acronym that you've come up with. I think it's so beautiful. When I feel at my higher energetic resonance, I was thinking about it, and it's really when I feel free, like I'm kind of free from any expectations put on me by myself, by society, when I just let go of worry, when I'm in flow. So I was thinking about it. I'm like, how do I distill this? What does this really mean for me? And I think it's really when I feel present. When I'm just in this moment, I'm not worrying about what happened before. I'm not worried about what's going to happen in the future, because worry is a big theme for me. I've always had, a lot of anxiety and worry and concern, and my thoughts just going like da 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 da,
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, my HER state is definitely just being in the moment and being present. And I've found over the past few years some really beautiful ways to do that. I think that meditation is incredibly important to me. So that really puts me into this higher energetic resonance state, as well as dancing. I find dancing to be this like incredible moving meditation. And when I'm dancing, I'm not worrying about anything. I'm not worrying about the past, the future. I'm just there in the moment. So that's my HER moment.
Fabulous. Do you have like a particular form of dancing that you like?
Good question. I actually really want to learn more contemporary African dance. My friend, I've never tried it, but I love anything with like a beat, like a really good beat and drums and things like that. And I have a friend, Dirish. He's a great yoga teacher here in London, and he also teaches Shakti dance as well, which is this like incredible kind of like movement. It's like, what did they call it? They call it the yoga of dance. Or maybe it's the dance of yoga. Either one, it works. And it's like this beautiful kind of like free-flowing thing. I like dance that doesn't have like set steps. I like to just be able to be in my body. I've also recently discovered, in the past year, discovered ecstatic dance, which is incredible. And of course, people who are familiar with ecstatic dance will know that there aren't any moves, there aren't any steps, it's just however your body feels in the moment and how you want to move, that's how you can dance. And no one's watching, no one's, like judging. It's just really, really free. And so for me, it's if there's a beat, if there's percussion and just free movement, that's my dancing.
Perfect. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to do sometimes when you're just like given the floor. I've been like times before when I've gone out dancing with friends who are like professional dancers, especially when they're like ballet trained. When it comes to them doing a freestyle, they're like, okay, like because they're used to like heavily choreographed pieces. But each to their own. But I hear you with especially like the African dance. I've been looking at that a lot and just watching. I like watching people dance in anything as well. I think I'm a much better dancer in my head than
Yeah. No, me too. I'm a much better dancer in my head. And but then that's the great thing about the kind of free flowing dance. It's like people just go nuts. Like you don't, everyone's different. Everyone, you might be on beat, you might not. It's okay. And I think there's like a big movement around dance, I feel. I'm seeing a lot of places, at least in London, popping up where it's all about teaching beginners like a dance, and it's kind of like, okay, here's a Rihanna song, and then they just kind of teach you a few moves, and it's totally open. Like no one's looking for perfect. No one's looking for, this, impressive dance moves. And it's just, everyone's getting more into their body. I think it's really cool. And it's great because it doesn't require drinking.
Yeah.
Because when I used to dance, I think about like university days and after, I always, in order to feel that freedom, I thought I had to be drinking. And I think there's this beautiful movement now, like with ecstatic dance and all these fun like hip hop dance classes popping up everywhere and all that. It's like, you don't have to be drinking. It's the joy of dancing. And that's really beautiful.
Perfect. I could go on about this for ages, but
I know, me too.
I want to speak to you about you, because I've got so many theories about certain things that filter into society. And, you're talking about, just briefly before you were talking about, sometimes people feel the need to have a drink before they can feel loose enough and free enough to then express themselves to dance. I have this like similar theory about the fact that, especially during like people's early 20s, should they go down that particular route, that drugs are so prevalent, and it's not like the police are not aware of it, it's like they're there. You've got like hundreds of like teenagers and early 20s like wandering around like motorway service stations gurning. What's going on, but there must be a reason why they're allowing that.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, when I was in university, we would because you can't drink under the age of 21 in the US, and I'm from California, and so when I was in university, we would be at like house parties and things, which is where we could get the alcohol if we're underage, and the police would come in. It was like expected that at least if it was a good party, at least once, maybe twice, or even 3 times, the police would raid it and come in and just kind of look around and ask a couple people for IDs. But it was, looking back on it, they really were so ineffective. There was so much, there was so much stuff going down at those parties, and they weren't really like looking into it closely enough. It was kind of like routine, like, all right, let's just make sure no one's, beating each other up and then leave.
They just come in to like assert their authority, so you remember it, not to actually do anything. So they kind of remind you that they're the authority figures on that. So you've got that point of reference as you get older. Because if they really wanted to clamp down, they would do it.
They would, they would arrest people. And I only remember one time that they arrested someone. So it's crazy.
But anyway, back to the reason that we're speaking to you today.
I can go off on tangents. Okay, I have a Gemini moon. I love talking. So.
I don't know. I should really know. I do have a chart, and I have to keep referring to something. Maybe you can help me out with that. But I want to know about your story. Like, what's your background, and how did you get to creating what you've created for the world now?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So as I mentioned, I grew up in California. So I'm from a small town in Northern California, and small family. And let's see, there's so much to tell. What do I focus on? I really grew up as a chronic overachiever, I think is kind of a theme of my life. And wanting to be, quote unquote, like successful in the eyes of the world or in my own eyes. And what I thought this meant was that I had to get, straight A's, but actually A wasn't good enough. It had to be A+. So straight A's in school. And then I had to go to the best university. And then I had to graduate with honors. And then I had to get the top paying job. And that's kind of like, it's like, this is the formula that I saw for myself. I was going to be, the smartest and make my way in the world and force it to happen, no matter what. And this caused a lot of this belief about myself and this kind of lack of like self-worth in a way really caused a lot of like anxiety in me, and it just grew and grew and grew kind of as I went through high school, and then finally as I went to university. And it's been an interesting journey with that, and with these like heavy expectations and anxiety and sometimes depression around, my own self-worth. And this has been a big theme of my journey. So when I got to university, the most amazing thing happened. I was able to study abroad in London. And so that's actually how I'm in London now. I was able to do a study abroad program, which was really transformational because I just saw a different way of living, a slower pace of life, more of an appreciation for culture and history and food, living here in Europe. And it really like opened my eyes a little bit more. And it got me out of that kind of like small town, small world vibe. And it got me to travel, which had always been my dream. So, fast forward, and I'm sure we'll come back to a few things, but when I moved to London, it was 2008. So I've been here almost 11 years now. Woohoo! It's been ages. Thank you. Yeah. And so I moved here. I did my master's. It started on my 5-year plan. And started working for a big one of the big four. And I work in technology as a management consultant. After 5 years, by the world standards, I was getting very successful, and I was doing really well for myself before the age of 30, ticking all those boxes. But I just really felt empty and unfulfilled. Yeah. And I think this is a common theme with a lot of people that I know that are now in the wellness industry. We all kind of have a similar story. It's like we were following a path that we thought we were supposed to follow. And then one day, or over a series of days, you realize, what am I doing? Why am I here? I think there's something more that I'm supposed to be doing. I just don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
And so, so one thing led to another. I started, I had my kind of dark night of the soul, and a bit of a breakdown as well, as I was working in my job and just getting my panic attacks starting coming back, which I used to have when I was in university. And I was like, okay, whoa. I need to figure out what's going on here. What's wrong with me? And it's not something I can just think my way out of, or just work harder. So what I learned about was actually the first kind of step for me was, I don't exactly remember how I found this course, but I started a course with Jennifer Rasiopi. She's this amazing astrologer in the US. And she talks about following the moon cycles and how that's a way to get back in touch with your own energy and get back in touch with yourself, especially as a woman, and the cycles that we go through every month. And so I started doing that, and that really completely opened everything for me. That was the start of this crazy, beautiful journey
it's a revelation, isn't it? The moon cycles, because it's such a new way of doing it. I've been doing the immense
or an old way.
well, an old way, or this kind of undercover way that we don't realize, because you always want to work out, like, okay, I'm happy today, I'm really focused, and then tomorrow you're like in a completely different place, and you can't work out why. Sometimes in the middle of the day that it will change, but it's that 2.5 day period, isn't it, that you have that changeover. And it's, how long did it take for you to kind of get to track it and notice your own patterns?
Well, so what we did was, and she does this for free if anyone's looking into it, usually about once or twice a year, she'll do a 28-day cycle of the moon. So starting on the new moon and ending on the next new moon. So you go through all 8 phases of the moon and you're tracking, she has some worksheets, so you track your energy, physically, how you feel emotionally, how you feel mentally. And then you just follow, and then you learn about what each cycle of the moon, kind of traditionally in ancient cultures represents. And so it just took me 28 days, and I was like, boom, my eyes are opened to the whole world of connecting spiritually, to the world and to myself, that I knew was there before, but I was kind of afraid of it, and I wasn't really sure how to get in touch with it. So so this was my opening. And then just fast forwarding a little bit, it was very soon after this happened when I just started. I'm a sponge for knowledge. So I'm just like, oh my God, what else can I learn about? So I really started to dive deep into astrology, and I started to learn more about the intuitive arts like tarot, and things like that. Meditation, of course, was a huge and is a huge part of my life. And then I started to think, okay, this is a great way for me to figure out, like, what am I supposed to be doing? I feel like I have a purpose here. I don't really know what it is, but I know I have talent, I have skills, I have potential. Where can I be putting this immense energy that I have inside me? Because putting it into my tech management job, management consulting job is not fulfilling me. And that's when I got the idea for the Trove. So the Trove is a wellness platform and events company that I started back in 2017. Well, I got the idea in 2017, and I really launched it in the summer, on the summer solstice in 2018. So it's still really brand new. It's my baby. But the idea of it was that I wanted to help other people have this awakening and be guided along the journey like I was. So I felt that, in London, there's a lot going on in the US, which is amazing. And the now age or the new age community, the spiritual wellness community, whatever you want to call it, is very active there and in other places in the world. But I felt in London, there wasn't a lot for beginners. It's kind of like you had to know a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy and try to find these like circles and like, different, activities to try out and things like that. And it's grown so much in the past year and a half, I have to say. But I was like, okay, let me create a platform where it's easy to find events. It's easy to find information, to get inspired, to learn something new and find what works for you. Because I think that there's all these really beautiful ancient practices and tools that are so old, 30,000, 50,000 and older years. But they're new to us now. And it's kind of, we're having a revival and getting back in touch with ourselves and with nature. So that's what the Trove is all about. It's all about helping and guiding that process, and really inspiring people to do more.
That's perfect. And what do you think? I mean, you sit at the helm of it all. How do you actually help with the running of it? Are you active in kind of drawing people in or putting the events on? And how do you actually make it all work?
Yeah, no, really good question. So I'm the founder, and currently I'm the only employee, although I'm looking at hiring a team very soon, which is the next step and very exciting. Wow. But like a lot of soul traders, you do everything. And I always joke about, I'm going to speak to the art department about changing this image. I am the art department. But no, I also have an amazing group of supporters, and I would say they're part of my team too, who help me out. So I have a really great friend named Rebecca Ferguson. You can check her out. She's an incredible designer, a graphic designer. So she created my logo for me, the lotus and the eye. I have people that I collaborate with for events. So the services that I offer to practitioners is that I will do all of the events organization and the logistics. And I have a lot of experience in that through my job, and then before my job as well, working in events. And and I have a brain for it as well. So I know about how to, be detail oriented, how to set a space, how to make sure that people feel comfortable. So I can kind of handle all that stuff. And then the practitioner just needs to do a little bit of planning with me on the schedule and then show up. And so I'm trying to take away some of that stress of the planning and the logistics, and then offer that as a service. And then I take a fee for that. And so that's one of the things that I offer. And actually it's interesting because I didn't originally plan on doing that, but I realized as I started to get more and more into the industry that this is a service that people really need and can really benefit from. So the Trove is always evolving and always changing. The next step, which I could talk about at the end as well, I'm really excited about where we're going next. But at the moment, it's really in-person events and content. So creating and writing articles. I've got a fantastic Kundalini yoga instructor and astrologer named Laura, and her yoga name is Kiranjot, and she writes a monthly article for me about the new moon. So you can go on there and you get your new moon magic information about, what this new moon is about, how you can set your new moon intentions and things like that. So I'd love to do more of that kind of content as well.
It's beautiful. And it's great as well, as someone who is like a sole trader, but basically everything at the same time. When you, like the art department is me. The web developer is me. All of that. The production department, the sound engineer, the researcher, all of these things. And recently I was just listening to a talk from one of my teachers, because I'm into Kundalini yoga as well. And she was talking about there comes a point where you actually have to actively think of hiring somebody else, even if you don't think that you have the finances to do that. It's like, even if I sat down and went, okay, if I had someone just to do for 5 hours a week, take this tiny little bit of stuff away from me so I can do more of the heavy lifting, as opposed to the kind of basic admin stuff that still needs to be very detailed, but it does take up a lot of time. And it's who am I thinking of? Lisa Nichols, she's she does a lot of speaking, but she's kind of like she's been on the scene for a very long time. She's like American, but I remember watching a talk of her saying that she hired a cleaner one time, and because she comes from a family that's they were very like, well, they were poor, or poor if you take it America, and like her family were like, okay, what you do, why are you wasting your money hiring a cleaner? And her response is because I'm wasting, like, I don't know, she'd worked out what her hourly rate was, and the amount of money that she was losing by actually taking time to clean out of her house was worth the investment in the cleaner, because, not a cleaner's rate isn't what she could generate in that time. Sometimes you have to kind of turn it around for that.
So right. And that's why I say I'm definitely planning on hiring someone very soon, because I can see that there's so much more that I can be doing if I had a little bit more time. And I do a lot with what I've got, but it's coming to that point. And I think that is a big pivot point for a lot of soul traders, when they realize, okay, I need to hire someone, but what do I need them to do? But there's so many great tools out there. I mean, there are virtual assistants, so it doesn't have to be someone who's there face to face. It could be someone living anywhere in the world who's just really interested, has the right skills, but is also passionate about what you're doing. I think hiring the right team is so crucial. I actually have a friend living in Canada who's probably going to be starting a business around this, helping people learn how to hire a team, because it can be really scary. And I've got some advice from some of my friends that own businesses, and choosing the right people is so important, but also letting people go quickly if they're not the right people is really, really crucial as well.
Yeah.
So, I hear you on that. It's interesting, like when you think about building a team also, actually, I just wanted to make a quick point, is that you have to be clear about what you want them to be taking over from you and what things you need to keep a hold of. So recently I was listening to a podcast by Marie Forleo, who's an amazing online business coach and teacher in the US. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with her, but she talks about, like the one thing you should not delegate is your social media. And that's interesting, because that's a lot of people that I meet, a lot of practitioners that I advise are all saying, they'd really like to outsource that. And I think that is the one, I agree with Marie, that's really the one thing you shouldn't outsource, because it's all about your authentic voice and all about you. And I mean, you can outsource the creation of it. Like if you want to write the post and then they put it together and do the hashtags and everything, that's fine. But I think that if someone else is writing your posts, I think that it gets into the realm of being inauthentic. But that's my opinion on that. Yeah, it is. It's important to think about, I think, just when you're going to delegate, which things do you delegate and which things do you keep as the voice of your company and the voice of your brand.
And it's great what you say about getting the right people as well. So I was kind of
Yeah.
like discussing it with somebody else, and they were like, "Well, why don't you go on Fiverr?" I'm like, "No, because it's not." And I
Yeah.
know we could probably find someone who was adequate on Fiverr, but
Mm-hmm.
there's more to it. That they need to kind of understand the whole thing that I'm creating, so that
Yeah.
I can't have someone come into this that thinks it's like kind of woo or doesn't really believe and
Yeah.
understand it. Otherwise, it's not going to work, and it doesn't. And
Yes.
I'm not even expecting it to be everything that they do. To be honest, I'd
Mm-hmm.
like if someone came and helped me out that they had something of their own going on.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's great because I agree. I think, if I got an assistant or someone to help me out, yeah, I would definitely not assume that they're just going to be here forever. I want them to have their own interests. And I think that's part of being a conscious business is that we're so people focused and we have a mission and we have to be true to that every step of the way. So you want your team and your partners to be on the same wavelength. So that's super, super important.
And also coming back to, you said you ended up as a management consultant in like one of the major businesses, and and then you get to a point where it feels totally wrong that you're there. And yeah, it's totally right, because then you have all the skills and you have the discipline to actually structure a company like that, like you're doing in the wellness industry. Because I think what may have happened beforehand, like in the kind of the old school wellness and new age stuff, was there was because there was this big disconnect about making money and
Yes. Oh,
being
there still is. It's still
yeah.
alive and well. Yeah.
But
Yes.
I mean, it's still there, but at least there are more kind of business-minded people or people who've got a business background coming and
Yeah.
at least recognizing that we have these kind of trip-ups that, yeah, we're offering these spiritual things, but we still need to eat and pay bills and stuff like that. So would you mind paying us in like currency, please, as opposed to
Oh my
best
goodness.
wishes and crystals and stuff like that? It's not always going to work.
I love that.
How
Best
are you?
wishes.
How are you
Thoughts and
finding it?
prayers. Yeah. Oh wow. I could go off on this topic. Yes, definitely. I think that, and I didn't say that earlier, but I am incredibly grateful for my career previous to this one and all of my experiences because, whether they were difficult or easy, because that's how you grow. And I've grown so much, in the past 10, 15 years. And I have to say that, being a management consultant, you're right. It prepared me for everything that I have to do as a business owner, like all of the, negotiating contracts, looking out for risks and opportunities, making sure that I'm clear in my communication, having a strategy that works for me, being true to my brand. Like every single thing that I've ever counseled these multinational corporations on, they apply to me as well. And so that has been super, super rewarding to feel like, okay, it's not that no time is wasted. I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, I hate my job. It's wasting my time. You can learn something in any job that you're at. If you're washing dishes, if you're, taking care of children, like you're learning for sure. And all of that wisdom is going to come together, when you find the thing that you're really passionate about.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. But on the money thing, can I say something on that as well?
Yes, please do. So I want to hear your take. So I'm really cool for that.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of money mindset work this year as well on myself, and I'm constantly doing personal development work. I think this is even I think sometimes people feel like, oh, once you're like, a leader in the wellness industry or you have a business, you've made it, everything. It's like, no.
Sorry, that come out loud.
Yeah, I know. I've heard people say this, like, oh, you're awakened now. So yeah,
This is it. It's just starting until you stop breathing.
Starting. Yeah, exactly. The work begins now. So yeah, so I love hearing about people who are coaches or healers or whatever who are doing so much personal development work on themselves. That makes me trust them so much more. But yeah, so I've been doing a lot of money mindset work with myself because I think everyone grows up with these really toxic views of money. And I've been working on a course with Harriet Hale. She's the money mindset expert in the UK. I highly recommend her work. She's really great. And she will trigger people. I love it. She will.
Oh, really? Okay, give me one of her gems. I always like to hear a trigger.
That you deserve to be wealthy, that everyone deserves to be wealthy and to be rich. And that can be really triggering to people, because I think a lot of people have this feeling, especially in wellness or in the healing arts, that their work is so worthy that they need to suffer for it. You know, it's kind of like that like I have to, not have any material possessions, and I need to be living an ascetic lifestyle, and I need to not have any money, and people just pay me what they think I deserve. And it's interesting because I'm hearing so many teachers that I really respect, like Shaman Durek, Sahara Rose, Alexander Roxo. All these people are talking about money mindset, because it is a problem right now that people are not asking for what they're worth. And, Harriet talks about money is energy, and it's an energy exchange, and healing work is real work, and it's incredibly, there's a lot of energy that goes into it, and a lot of, it's exhausting as well. And people are just not charging what they're worth. And I think another point that I just want to make on this, because I could go on for ages, but is that you don't have to charge £2,000 for a course to be valuing yourself. You could charge that, but you could also offer tiers of services or products or whatever you offer. So, I think it's really important that people are making enough to have the lifestyle that they desire, that will make them feel joyful. So, it's not about being rich for being rich's sake. It's about having money so you can do the things that bring you joy, so that then spreads. Because imagine if I have, enough money that I can actually help someone out with their college education, or I can actually take a trip when I need a break to visit a beautiful sacred site around the world. That kind of money, that's not, that's putting money into things and putting energy into things that are supportive and beautiful, and will really help me to become, even a better person. And then that spreads beyond and beyond and beyond. And so anyway, so I just say that to say that I think, you can always offer free content. You can always offer free things. And in addition to that, you've got to be charging what you're worth for the primary services that you're offering. So, have tiers, like offer a free meditation on your website, or a free webinar, or free, whatever it is. But then when you're doing one-to-one group coaching or counseling or a course, make sure that you're charging the correct rate. And it's hard to know what that is, but I think, I just think people are really undervaluing themselves in wellness, especially.
Oh my gosh, it's like all of those things that you said as well, because like the mindset around money in particular has been something that, especially in the last couple of months, where I've been like, there's like this bit, it's been very apparent that this is something that I really need to like knuckle down and really pick out all the areas where I'm kind of blocking the abundance that I envisage myself having, and so all of those things, like I've been listening to so many different people, so some of them kind of like more modern day names, and then going right back to, I was like talking about Reverend Ike, who's like one of the big figures from like the church in like the 60s, 70s and 80s in the US. And then even before that, when you've got like the new thought books that came out, like Napoleon Hill and Neville Goddard and Wallace Wattles, like the science of getting rich and all this kind of stuff, because it was like never in my conversation at all. And I grew up in the church where they were always about, the money is the root of all evil, and it's for a poor man to enter through the eye of heaven, and into heaven, then through the camel through the eye of a needle, and these things get battered into your head so deeply that you don't even realize that they're like running the show for you 24/7 until you kind of start to excavate them. But I've been, there's so many different people I listen to, but one of the one of the women that I watch on YouTube, and she's called Dr. Valerie Love, and she's like triggering to many people that I've introduced to her. But I really like her because her background is she grew up in Harlem in the projects, but she's got to the point where she's now, she calls herself a Christian rich, but she does a lot of things around money mindset and abundance and everything like that. And she gets real with people and she tells it how she sees it. And, one of the videos I was watching that she put out maybe a couple of months ago was saying why she now has, why people now pay her $25,000 for her coaching packages. And she was saying she had a financial background. So she worked for a big company like American Express as like offering their packages for many years. So she understands money from the worldly way and how to make money. And the first thing, but a lot of the time it's in immediate blocks within yourself. She was saying there was one time when she was working at American Express and her boss called her in and he was saying, do you want to know how you make more money? And she was like, no, how do you make more money? He's like, charge more.
Yeah, duh.
But the thing is,
so easy.
It's so easy, but then it's so hard. I know, because even when I've been sending out like proposals for different things and I've just put maybe an extra 100 on something, I've just been like, oh my God, and
I know,
it's got
but it's
nothing to do with anyone. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's like, oh, I don't think I believe to be paid this, or maybe I'm not an expert enough. It's all these limiting beliefs that hold us back, right? And it's funny because as a buyer, like I think about the courses that I buy. If I see a course for £20 and I see a course for £100, I'm going to go for the £100 one because I assume that it has more value and it's going to get me where I need to go. And so you have to think from the mind of your consumer as well, that if they're putting an investment into you and into what you're doing, then they value that and you shouldn't devalue that, it's really fascinating.
And I was saying, by that same token, then you're going to attract a certain kind of person. I know from when I've been doing things like websites and graphics and everything like that, when I've been putting a lower price on things, it comes with more problems than it does when you actually charge a higher rate. There's a different kind of thing, but
about the value, right? If someone really values like a course that you're doing and they've really, they've saved up and they've put the investment in it, they're going to get the results because they're going to focus and they're actually going to do the work. The same way, like what you're saying, if someone pays more for your services, they'll really value it. They'll respect what you're doing. They'll make sure they're giving you the right brief. They won't ask you to redo it 1,000 times because it's just an energy exchange. If it's higher energy, then people value it more and they're going to really respect it more.
Sure. And another one that she, that stayed with me that she said as well was, it's not what people will pay, it's what they get. It's like they'll pay anything for your services as long as they get what they pay for. So it's not even about the price, because there are, I think you talked about Marie Forleo. I know that she goes to Ali Brown for mentoring. And like Ali Brown's like who like mainly kind of women within the wellness, but she won't take anyone on unless they're hitting like $500,000 a year. So that's kind of like her niche. Is like, you have to be at this level before you even get into the club, before even considering where I'm going to take. So it's like, it's kind of pricing yourself up. So, she wouldn't have started at, whatever. I don't even know what her courses cost, because I've seen people I've seen packages out there that are like 5 and 6 figures, for a few months. And you're like, how do you get to that point where you're charging that and people are accepting that? But you have to work your way up. And I've never met a coach who hasn't had those early days where you're just, charging people what they can pay, or, donations or anything like that. And it breeds a certain kind of resentment in the end.
Yeah, it does. I see a lot of people who resent their customers because they're not able to pay their bills, and it's like, okay, well, like your guy said, charge more. But I also want to say on the other side, because I don't want people listening to think like, oh, the goal is to charge astronomical amounts and then I've made it, because that's not what we're saying. We're saying another thing that we're saying is that when you're charging the right amount and you're able to support yourself and have your lifestyle and send your kids to good schools and all of this stuff, when you have those things covered, then you're able to provide the cheaper and the free services as gifts. You can't really do that if you're struggling to pay your bills. You can't, because it's not coming from a good place, and you get into this like desperation of like, oh my God, I need money, you know. But if you're coming from a place of abundance and a place of generosity, that's the kind of, you know, rich people that I want to see in the world, are people that have that money, and so much so that they can give back. It's overflowing back into the community. That's the kind of giving that I want to do. That's the kind of giving I want, you know, the practitioners I work with to be able to do. So it's not just about like, oh, I want to make so much money so that I'm now, you know, famous and I'm supporting myself. It's, you want to make so much so that you have so much to give. And that's, I think, a really important part of being a conscious business owner, is that you're always finding ways to be as generous as you can with your customers and with your community around you. And that's how people grow and improve and learn and, you know, really raise up the consciousness of our entire community. So I just wanted to add that in there as well.
Yeah, because sometimes you have to clarify, like you say, because money is such a triggering subject for us all, really. And I think it's one of those things that we really need to start talking about out in the open, and just having a conversation about it, because it's like you ask somebody about how much they earn or this kind of things, and everyone closes down. And if we can just kind of remove the stigma and the shame about having money or talking about money or expressing that you actually are in gratitude to money, because it's, you know, when you ain't got it, it ain't so great, you know. So there's not really that much you can do. Yeah, I've been there too many times.
I've been there. Yeah, I remember, like, you know, the first couple of years I was in London, I was like I was on the edge, on that like line of like needing to be on benefits. Like there was, I remember I lived in North London, and my local chip shop guy was like basically keeping me alive with his generosity. I couldn't really afford food. I could like barely afford my tube pass to like get to my job, which paid me nothing. And so he would give, every night I would like pass by coming home from work so exhausted, and he would like call me in, and he would like give me all the extras that were left over, which I know are like so unhealthy, but he really just like kept me going with all of the free food that he would give me. And so I know what it's like. I don't come from a, you know, highly privileged background. It's hard, you know, when you are struggling. So I definitely identify with people, and I really feel for them if they're in that place, and I don't want them to stay in that place. You know? And it's I tick boxes with all of it, and I know what it's like to be on the edge in London. It's not nice. It's not nice at all. No, it's not.
But you develop an edge for definite. You know, and you work things out. What I wanted to find out is like, what is the vision that you're working towards for Into the Trove? Where do you see it going?
Oh my gosh, I have visions like, you know, 1,000 stories high. So with the Trove, like I said, it's really evolving. It started out as somewhere where I wanted to have like event listings and just put all of the kind of conscious events that I recommended and just put them onto the site so that people could find them, you know, almost like a kind of like an event listing board or like a class pass type of thing. And then it evolved into actually running the events and offering the services to practitioners around, you know, business growth, business management, but also around event management. And then now it's coming into the stage where I'm super, super excited to start offering more courses and information and education to people around wellness topics. So that's really where I see this evolving, is that I want this to become like an incredible online community, which it already is, but more of a community where people are just learning and sharing together constantly. I'm really inspired by places like Astrology Hub and the Numinous, and how they've been able to create these beautiful conscious communities where everyone's just really, you know, like sponges, like just excited to learn and share their experiences and grow on their personal development journey. And that's what I see for the Trove as well. And it's really about bringing these ancient practices and methods and tools, whether you call them mystical, whether you call them esoteric, whether you call them just wellness, and really making them not intimidating to people, making it inclusive. I want to see more diversity in the industry, and I think I can really push forward a lot of that. I myself am non-white, well, mixed race, and I just want to see more of that out there. So I think just making a beautiful, inclusive, informational, inspirational platform is where I see the Trove is going next.
Great. And you like touched on being a woman of color. Mm-hmm. How are you finding creating a platform in the wellness scene as a woman of color? Are you able to find more collaborators? Are you able to, it's a conversation open, because the conversation's really, really kind of like sticky at the moment. I think things are really coming up to the fore. So it's out in the open, and I think everyone's, the way that I see it, how it is right now is everyone's coming up and stating the way that they've been feeling all of their lives, and maybe all of their like mothers'
it's all
life.
coming out.
It's all coming out. So at the moment it looks really messy because everyone's like throwing everything and then feeling kind of,
they're just like releasing their emotions.
Releasing emotions. And then especially from the side of women of colour. And then I was with a friend a couple of days ago, and she's a white woman. She's not, she's not necessarily choosing to be in the wellness scene, but we're out here in Bali and there's a lot of that happening. But, you know, and she was talking about things that happened to her that she was saying, well, it didn't really have any, that was not my first priority. I didn't experience any white privilege because of that. I'm like saying, well, you kind of actually did. And it's not like it's not like I'm sitting here like pointing the finger at you or trying to shame you or anything like that, because she saw the way the conversation was going a year ago, especially on Instagram, and she felt she had to come off because she felt that she was being really bullied and shamed by certain.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I'm not a fan of that either. I mean, bullying of any kind. I think Instagram is a wonderful tool for getting, your voice out there. It can also be, you're right, a harsh place where people love to, hide behind their screens and comment and try to take people down, in the comments and things like that. So it's a double-edged sword, this freedom that we have to express ourselves, for sure. I don't feel, I don't know. I don't feel that I've really experienced discrimination necessarily in starting my business in the wellness industry. But what I have felt is that I'm one of the only ones that I really see. I don't see a lot of... especially in London, but I think online as well. I'm constantly looking for accounts to follow and people that I can work with, that are, I don't even know how to say it. There are not the normal kind of blonde, white, thin female, that you normally see in the yoga world. And I have many friends who are, young, white, blonde, and thin and female, and I love them dearly. And I want to see more of a rainbow. And I think that there are so many people out there that are doing work, but maybe aren't being, they're not like being raised up, or they're not loud enough. So because I have this platform, I'm really excited because I have an opportunity and a responsibility to be showcasing more of their work. And that's really where I see myself in this. It's kind of like what you're doing with your podcast is incredible, because you're really raising up a lot of, women of color and giving them more of a voice and more of an amplification in the world. And that's similar to what I want to do with the Trove as well, and what I am doing. And I think that I'd love to see, and it's not just about women, right? It's also about men. I want to see more men in wellness. And I know that I feel like there is something in the water. There's something in the zeitgeist right now, because I'm seeing so many new like men groups popping up, male practitioners, male healers talking about mental health, talking about depression, talking about, masculinity and the new, a new non-toxic way to be a masculine man in the world. And I want to see more of that. Yeah. And I also want to see more of people who, don't identify as the two, kind of dominant binary genders in the world. I want to see more of that too. So I just love this topic because I think diversity, it should be such a positive thing. And I think that we need to really focus on, I think, yes, it's okay for people to release their anger and their sadness at what's happened and what's happening in the world, if they felt, repressed, and things like that, especially with what's going on in the US. And I think it's so important that we raise up the people who are doing great work, and we show their faces, we show what they look like, and so that we have more of a rainbow in our wellness industry. I think it's something that's desperately needed. And it's coming. Yeah, for sure. And I hear you when you're saying about the kind of the consciousness of males now, and like the men's circles that are happening, and the way that they're talking about it, and also the way that they're recognizing the toxicity that they've been programmed to kind of go under as well. They've been as much under this idea of what a man should be, as much as we've been kind of like suppressed as females. So as that's rising, at least, a woman's energy when she's in the right track is not that, she doesn't want to just kind of rise and then dampen down and fight down. Not usually. It's usually about collaboration, and I'm feeling that it's more about a collaboration and not about just like kicking the men out of the way so that we can have the next. No. Exactly. And I always correct people when they say this. I think there's a really mistaken assumption about what matriarchy is. So patriarchy, if you look back in history, to like the ancient Egyptian times, or whenever we really believe that, patriarchy began like 30,000 years ago, that was all about, the elevation of the masculine and the suppression of the feminine. And that has not helped anyone. I mean, it's like, this is not good for men either. That's not good for anyone. Maybe a select few in political office or something, but men suffer under the patriarchy as well. And I think it's really important for us to remember. I mean, the number one killer of men under the age of 45 is suicide. They're not just dancing around, on and happy for what's going on with the suppression of the feminine energy. So that's patriarchy. And then matriarchy, you're right, is I believe, and I believe that this is shown through history as well, what we can see of the ancient, old period, like before the golden age of ancient Egypt, is that matriarchy is collaborative. It's not about elevating the feminine above the masculine. It's about the unity. And that's what we need to bring back, is the unity and recognizing the beauty in the different energies, and the fact that when they work together and they're collaborative, that they can be even more powerful and more supportive. So it's not about, step aside men, it's our turn. Although I do love some of those memes sometimes, they can be pretty funny. But it's not about that. It's about standing together and recognizing that there's a new, feminine style of leadership that does not disinclude men. So men can have and take on these incredible feminine energies as well. So things like collaboration, things like teamwork, things like, looking ahead, things like listening, things like, respecting emotions. Those are all, I would say, more feminine leadership qualities and energies. And those can be expressed by any gender. So I would love to see more of that. And I think that it's coming.
Me too. I've seen instances of it, and also I've seen a softening of certain men around me. I don't even think they realize that they are softening, but their conversation is just turning, and they're starting to kind of consider things or talk about
an
things.
Opening. More of an opening than a softening, I would say, because sometimes when you say soften, like people think weakness, and it's like there's nothing weak about feminine power and energy. No. Nothing at all. And it's like this opening where people are suddenly feeling free to talk about what they're worried about and what they're excited about. And there's not this like block of like, oh, I must have zero emotion and that means that I'm strong. Because it doesn't.
No, because if you're just holding that rigidity, then it's going to shatter at some point. Like you say, as we see like all too often. It's that. But so this, I've got and oodles of faith in what can happen. It's just going to take a bit of work and, at the moment we're just kind of going through the labor pains, aren't we, really? So
yes, exactly. I think it's the last gasp of the patriarchy, as people say. And it's always going to be the most difficult at the end. Like the ancient Mayans knew this, they predicted this, we're coming out of a dark age. And that's always the hardest point. It's always darkest before the dawn, that's the saying. And I totally believe it. That's why it seems so chaotic and everything is just in an upheaval, but beautiful things are coming through too. And it's really important for us to remember that and to nurture them and give them a platform.
Yeah, I believe it. it. Fabulous. Yeah. Well, I want to ask you the set of closing questions that I pose to all my guests. So the first one is, what is the best piece of advice a woman has ever given you?
Yes, I prepared for this one because I wanted to share this quote and made sure that I got it right. It's just this incredible quote that is like a guiding light in my life over the past 3 years. It's from Guru Jagat. So I don't know if people are familiar with her, but she's a Kundalini yoga teacher, and she runs the Rama Institute, which is all over the world now, but primarily started in LA. But she says, people are waiting for you to open the door for them by opening yourself. And that to me is the best piece of advice. And it's what wellness and personal development and self-love are all about. It's really about opening yourself first. It's not about fixing other people or fixing your job or fixing your life or whatever, that kind of left brain thinking is. It's about opening yourself, and then that's what will open the door for the others in your life and other people around you in order to move towards that place of love and harmony. So that's I put it on the front page of my website. It's just, I think about it like every day. So yeah.
That's cool. I have to send you, because I'm just finishing off my second year of Immense Grace with them, which is like the women training.
Yes.
Yeah. I highly recommend. It will
great.
challenge you. The practice is really deep. It would just opens you up in so many different ways. I can't say enough good about it. And then also, this is like my second year. This is also the community that I've got to know. I've got like all over the world now. The community of women that I've got to know in that has been initially, when I first kind of got involved in the whole Rama world. It was. And started to get involved in, like, I started with the Aquarian Women's Leadership Society, which is ongoing as well.
Yes, I've been meaning to join that. I really want to. Yeah.
It's, for me, it was like the first time that I'd been around such a supportive, positive, forward-thinking group of women with no side. And that's unfortunate that it took me into my 40s to get there, but that's the truth.
Right?
Because of the way that women have been conditioned to pit against each other, and there's none of that there. Or I don't feel it there at all. And I know it can, I know it's still prevalent, because then when I go into other spaces, and even, dare I say it, being out here in Bali, not all women's communities are created equal.
Yeah, some still have the hangover from the patriarchal competitiveness, don't they? Yeah.
OMG.
I know.
Trust me.
That's why you're creating this space, right?
Yeah,
it's like
of course.
These things that don't work. It's like there are certain people like us who are just going to jump in and be like, right, okay, I can do this better. Let's go.
Yeah. And it's interesting, especially when you kind of go into spaces where you think it's all going to be about caring and sharing, and then you come away from that and you're like, I don't feel good. Do you mean I don't feel good for having done that? Or, there's so many different things come up. So it's been interesting, because I think when you travel somewhere, so I've been out here a few months now, like, the first kind of month or the first few weeks, it's all about the romance of everything like that. And then when you start to settle into it, like month 3 and 4, then it becomes like, this is your everyday existence. And you start to really see what a place is about in terms of what the culture is, and the different layers and the cliques and the egos and all that goes on, especially in a place like Bali, where everyone sees it for one thing.
Yeah.
let it be known that real life is here.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, anywhere that humans are, we will bring our complexities, won't we?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but there's a talk that I'm going to send you a link to, actually, that was on YouTube that Guru Jagat put up like a couple of days ago, that's full of gems, especially as a business owner. You'll love it.
Okay, yeah, send it to
Absolutely
me.
will. So I will send that to you when we're done. So let me get to the next question. The next question is, what female do you feel represents higher energetic resonance to you?
Oh, this is so hard because, of course, there's so many.
So many.
I know. I found through this work, I've just found so many incredible women that I wish I had known about when I was a teenager,
Sure.
But really incredible. So the one I have to pick is Lisa Lister. So she is the author of the book Witch. And so that was her first, I think, big bestseller. And then she's also written another book called Love Your Lady Landscape. And there's a few others. But for me, she absolutely represents her because she is so unapologetically authentic and herself. She has taken a lot of flack and, online abuse really for publishing the book Witch and talking about witchcraft as a modern, thing and as a beautiful, non-threatening, non-destructive spiritual practice. And I just think she's so brave, and I love that. And when I think about her, I think about someone who is brave, someone who stands in their truth, someone who wears what they want, says what they want, lives openly and always in love. And I just think that that's Lisa. So yeah, she's that expander, her for me.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
And what are your favorite self-care rituals and practices?
Good one. Oh, there's so many. I think I know. It's like, how do I pick? I think that for me, something that I do consistently is because there are so many cool self-care practices that I love to try and love to do. But something that I keep coming back to again and again is really working with the moon cycles. So at least on the new moon and the full moon, I will do a little ritual for myself. And I've even been on trips before, with friends where I've said, look, on this night, it's the new moon. I just need some alone time. For a couple hours, I'm going to, take a bath, light some candles, set my intentions, use some beautiful essential oils, whatever it is, depending on my mood and the theme of that moon. I think taking that time alone for myself, that is the biggest self-care thing that I can possibly do. So yeah, it's just that marking of the time, that ritual, that moment is my favorite.
Perfect. So what's next for you?
Ooh, okay. So what's next for me? So much. 2019. I remember everyone was talking about January being, what a great year that was. What a tough year that was in January. It really was. But yeah, March has felt like a year as well. It's crazy. I just finished wrapping up my Wild Woman event series, which was incredible, and just such a beautiful group of collaborators and practitioners that I worked with on that. And so now the next thing that I'm looking to is launching the first course ever with the Trove. So I'll be launching this course. It's called Discover Your Superpower, 4 Steps to Uncovering Your Unique Strengths and Lighting That Inner Spark. So that's the title of the course. And I'm going to be launching that online very soon. So basically, around the 6th of April. I'm not sure when this will come out, but around the 6th of April, doors will open to the course. It's just going to be open for a limited time. And then the course will actually begin on the 13th of April. And it's going to be online, including some live Q&As and coaching from me, but mostly self-led. So that's really exciting to me because it's something that I've been working on for a long time. I've had in my heart and in my mind how I want to offer this to people who are just feeling really, dissatisfied in where they are and don't really know what they're good at. And they're looking for that inspiration and confidence in themselves to move to the next step. So I just can't wait. So that's the next thing for me is that. And then of course, more events. more events coming up in London. There's going to be some really great like chakra events, some guided journeys. Maybe we'll do some crystal events as well. I'm always open to ideas, and I've got a few things in the works. So keep watching. If people want to follow the Trove and see what we're up to, so they can go on to Instagram. The handle is at Into the Trove. The same on Facebook, and then the website is www.intothetrove.com.
Fantastic. You even answered the question that I didn't ask you. That's perfect.
Yes, I know. Always remember, how do people get in touch, right?
Yeah, if you hadn't have said it, I would have made sure I would have asked you. So it's perfect.
Yeah,
so,
if people, something I'm doing actually, if people want, like, if you're not in London, you can't get to an event and the course isn't what you need right now. I do a newsletter every Monday called Monday Treasures, and it's so fun. I've gotten great feedback on it. I put like a lot of effort into it. There's some great stories. There's some insights, there's inspiration, there's all kinds of goodies in there. And it's always something really interesting and something you might not know about. So if you want to, you can just sign up on intothetrove.com and you can get that every Monday. So yeah, that's that.
Perfecto. So Rachel, I just want to say thank you as we wrap up the interview. It's been a little bit of a journey for us to kind of get together.
I know. Yes, we finally made it.
We finally made it.
Thank you. Yeah,
it's been perfect. So I just want to say thank you. And when I get back, I definitely want to come and speak to you about some stuff.
Yes, please. I would love to have you on Trove Talks as well. So I'll interview you next. But thank you so much for this opportunity, and I loved being on her podcast. It's wonderful. What you're doing is great.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Rachel for joining me on this episode of Her Conversations, and thank you for listening. You can discover more about me by visiting my website, which is carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaywhittick.com. And also I want to tell you about the new launch of Her Life Academy, launches in April 2019. It's a monthly instruction and inspiration platform for the awakening woman. It's created for you to magnify your spirituality, your sensuality, and your soul, and live a life in higher energetic resonance. So you can visit my website for more details, and also if you sign up now, you can gain early bird access and offers to that. On social media, you can find me on Facebook under Carol May Whittick. On Instagram, my name is Kazmic, so that's CAZMICK, and also Her Life Academy at Her Life Academy. I would also appreciate you leaving a comment, liking, sharing any episodes that resonate with you, and also if you feel that you have anybody in your circle who would benefit from hearing this and other episodes of Her Conversations. So thank you again for listening. Until the next episode, have a great week.